Hello everybody, welcome to my introductory lecture for Trivium method and critical thinking. To set the stage for this, I want to start by reading from a very good book, Prometheus Rising by Robert Anton Wilson. And this is, let me see here, it's Chapter 1, it's page 1, Chapter 1 of Prometheus Rising. And yeah, I think you'll see why I'm starting with this. William James, father of American psychology, tells of meeting an old lady who told him the earth rested on the back of a huge turtle. "But my dear lady," Professor James asked, as politely as possible, "what holds up the turtle?" "Ah," she said, "that's easy. He is standing on the back of another turtle." "Oh, I see," said Professor James, still being polite. "But would you be so good as to tell me what holds up the second turtle?" "It's no use, Professor," said the old lady, realizing he was trying to lead her into a logical trap. "It's turtles, turtles, all the way down." Don't be too quick to laugh at this little old lady. All human minds work on fundamentally similar principles. Her universe was a little bit weirder than most, but it was built up on the same mental principles as every other universe people have believed in. As Dr. Leonard Orr has noted, the human mind behaves as if it were divided into two parts, the thinker and the prover. The thinker can think about virtually anything. History shows that it can think the earth is suspended on the backs of infinite turtles, or that the earth is hollow, or that the earth is floating in space. Comparative religion and philosophy show that the thinker can regard itself as mortal, as immortal, as both mortal and immortal, the reincarnation model, or even as non-existent, Buddhism. It can think itself into living in a Christian universe, a Marxist universe, a scientific relativistic universe, or a Nazi universe, among many other possibilities. As psychiatrists and psychologists have often observed, much to the chagrin of their medical colleagues, the thinker can think itself sick and can even think itself well again. The prover is a much simpler mechanism. It operates on one law only. Whatever the thinker thinks, the prover proves. To cite a notorious example which unleashed incredible human horror earlier in this century, last century now, if the thinker thinks that all Jews are rich, the prover will prove it. It will find evidence that the poorest Jew in the most run-down ghetto has hidden money somewhere. Similarly, feminists are able to believe that all men, including the starving wretches who live and sleep on the streets, are exploiting all women, including the Queen of England. If the thinker thinks that the sun moves around the earth, the prover will obligingly organize all perceptions to fit that thought. If the thinker changes its mind and decides the earth moves around the sun, the prover will reorganize the evidence. If the thinker thinks holy water from Lourdes will cure its lumbago, the prover will skillfully orchestrate all signals from the glands, muscles, organs, etc., until they have organized themselves into good health again. Of course, it is fairly easy to see that other people's minds operate this way. It is comparatively much harder to become aware that our own minds are also working in this way. It is believed, for instance, that some men are more objective than others. One seldom hears this about women. Businessmen are allegedly hard-pressed, hard-nosed, pragmatic, and objective in this sense. A brief examination of the dingbat politics most businessmen endorse will quickly correct this impression. Scientists, however, are still believed to be objective. No study of the lives of great scientists will confirm this, however. They were and are as passionate and hence as prejudiced as any assembly of great painters or great musicians. It was not just the church, but also the established astronomers of the time who condemned Galileo. The majority of physicists rejected Einstein's special relativity theory in 1905. Einstein himself would not accept anything in quantum theory after 1920, no matter how many experiments supported it. Edison's commitment to direct current electrical generators led him to insist alternating current generators were unsafe for years after their safety had been proved by everyone else. Science achieves or approximates objectivity, not because the individual scientist is immune from the psychological laws that govern the rest of us, but because scientific method, a group creation, eventually overrides individual prejudices in the long run. So that's the basic ground for this, that objectivity exists. It can be perceived, but we have many obstacles that stop us from being able to see it clearly and to understand the difference between objectivity and subjectivity, and to really understand the way that the interface and the way that our minds create our reality, the way our whole interaction on an informational and energetic level really creates our perception itself and our view of what reality is. Now you can get into all kinds of different logical loops with this. You can really tie yourself in huge knots, and a lot of them are really valid. There's certainly a lot that aren't necessary, I don't think, to really understand what reality is and what life is about and what's important. What there's a prioritizing that I think has to go on, and I think that's what Trivium method is really valuable for, is that it allows us to understand not just what we think, but why we think it. To take apart the object that we are looking at within Trivium method itself, but that Trivium method itself can be taken apart in that same way and understood, so that each step in the process is able to be examined and not blindly believed in. That's a big part of what the first step of Trivium method, which is grammar, basic grammar, like a child learns. As a child, you say, "What's that?" a lot, and your mother or father or whoever raises you says, that's a tree, that's a cat, that's a dog, that's a, this is your world, and it's all named different things, and then you interact with those things, you react to them, and you get a feeling for what they are and how they work, and everything that you need to know. And so with Trivium method, there's this definite reflection of that larger picture of how our minds work from children until we become adults. That we like from when we're first able to speak words And, you know, even before that, when we're trying to, we go through this grammar period where we figure out the who's and the what's and the when's and the where's. Sorry. So our early development is basically that, you know, is a grammar phase where we first begin. And, you know, the timeline is different for everyone. Some people are born with definitely very much a more logical take. Some people are very much more intuitive and larger picture people, while others are definitely more rational, intellectual, and focused on details of existence, of the many systems that make up our existence. And so the timing varies for everyone, of course. But basically, you know, 1 through 10 is your grammar phase in life, where you're building your vocabulary to a competent, conversant state where you can pretty much talk about anything you ever see and know what words to use to describe it and understand what it is and be able to relay that information to anyone else in conversation or writing or what have you. And then, you know, 10 through 20, then, you know, within this model, like I say, there's a lot of variation. Then you have a logic phase where you're basically learning why. Why is everything that you learned in your grammar phase, why is that the way it is, and how can you understand it? How is more usually ascribed to the rhetoric phase, which is, you know, the part of Trivium method where we understand transmission, where we take what we've learned and make it not just palatable, but intriguing and beautiful to behold in a way where others will grasp it and want to engage, want to find out more about this thing that you're talking about. But I got a little ahead of myself. So the logic phase, 10 through 20, you know, that's understanding why something is what it is. And one of the main ways that we do that in the Trivium method is by understanding etymology, why something is actually called what it's called. And you can really, I mean, you know, linguistics is an incredibly deep subject. You can really just, you know, people spend their whole lives studying the development of language and its connections to psychology and its origins in human use and its more common use and all of that. I mean, that's a huge, vast subject, but it's really important in terms of grammar to do that, especially when you feel called to do that, to really research what the words that you take for granted actually mean, where they come from, and how they came to mean what they mean. And with the internet, you know, and that's really a huge part of this, by the way, with grammar. And now I'm kind of backtracking into grammar when I was talking about logic, but pardon me, that's just the way my mind works. That we get into these we get into these topics, and we really want to learn more